Welcome to a special video. I know many people want to know what it is like to play against Grandmasters. And in 2018, during the 40th Nizhmedinov Memorial in Kazan, Russia, I was able to play my first ever game against a Grandmaster. I was very excited. My opponent was rated 2490 at that time, while I was rated 2050. And this is how I look like. This is not a jam, guys, by the way. This picture is from the same tournament, but from a different round. It was 2018, I was 15 years old. And I've never played a jam, at least in serious over-the-board classical chess game. And if you look at my FIDE profile and you click on this tournament in 2018, I'm not sure what month was it, it's really the first game I've ever played against a Grandmaster. So let's start the analysis. I go e4. e4 is my main weapon. I try to switch to d4 sometimes, play London system, but I remember being a kid, e4 was always the main option. He goes knight c6. Usually, I didn't prepare. I knew he was playing a lot of stuff, so I just looked at some lines before the game, and I don't even remember what was happening during that specific game, because knight c6 is definitely something that I wasn't prepared for. It's more of, let's say, troll move, but after knight f3 he goes d6, and there is a potential to be transposed to different perk, different even, let's say, d4 f5 Philidor positions. So I go d4, he goes knight f6, I go knight c3 protecting e4 pawn, he goes g6, and yes, we kind of transpose to some perk structures. The line itself is called Nimtsovich defense declined, which is, again, some nonsense. So I go bishop e2. I remember I sometimes was scared to play against higher rated opponents. It was some type of psychological, I was going to a game and I was like, okay, I'm playing against a stronger player, I'll probably lose. That was my mindset all the time while being a kid, unfortunately. Now I kind of overcame this problem and I try to fight every single game, no matter who my opponent is. But even right now, like, let's say I play bully games and I know I'm playing against Hikaru or someone else, like top players, and it's hard mentally to face against them. Like, you constantly think you want to play good against them, but you don't want to, like, kind of lose, and you're scared to make aggressive decisions. And bishop e2 is a passive, I mean, it's a book move, but it's a passive option. I'm honestly not sure. I would probably go something like maybe even hg bishop e3 and then try to potentially set up king d2 and try to advance on the king side. But okay, knight f3, knight c3 is already not the best. So bishop e2, bishop g7, hd. hd is played with the sole reason of preventing bishop g4, knight g4 from happening in the future. Castle was happening on the board, bishop e3, and now he goes e5, challenging the d4 pawn. So, and now of course there are multiple options. d5, you don't really want to close the center, because in the close position specifically, I knew who my opponent was, so I didn't really want to close the center, because d5, knight e7, and then there are all sort of plans like knight h5, knight f4, then push f5, I can show you on the board, d5, knight e7, let's say king d2, and let's say knight h5 or knight d7 might be even stronger. And then the idea is to play f5, yeah, I have g4 here, just to prevent it from happening, but maybe bishop d7 and then c6, try to challenge the center with this pawn break. So after e5, I'm trying to try the position, try to minimize the risks. I play d takes e5, and after d takes e5, I didn't immediately capture the queen. I go bishop c5, attacking the rook on f8. Now he goes rook e8, I go trade queens, knight d8, and now I go long castle. Knight e6, bishop e3, and now the position is around equal. I have a slightly better endgame. Knight goes to d7, and now bishop c4. Honestly, yeah, this looks good. Now c6, trying to prevent knight d5 or knight b5 from happening, and knight g5. I'm again trying to trade as many pieces as possible from the chessboard, which probably not the best you could do. Here, white have more space, something like a4 to block b5 opportunity. White have an advantage, but look, as I said, Mentally, I was very scared to play against high-rated opponents, and if you analyze my games, you can find them in chess-base from when I was, let's say, from when I was 13 to when I was maybe even 18 years old. It was usually extremely hard. Like, yes, then I started winning and I started showing great results, but still, you know, it was always a challenge to play this strong guys. Knight g5, bishop g5, now knight goes to c5, trying to potentially attack the pawn on e4. So now I go bishop e3, attacking the knight, so knight has to go somewhere. Knight e6. I also remember I pretty much calculated bishop e6, but now it takes, and this only benefits me because I traded one more pair of pieces and rook d7 is coming. I take the d file, so that's kind of good. So bishop e3, knight e6. His plan is to keep as many pieces on the board as he possibly can, just to make sure he has some tricks later in the game. But once again, this is an endgame, and that's an equal endgame. He's not up a pawn. He has to prove that he has some tricks. Bishop f8, and now I go a3 once again, a passive option. Something like a4, I can understand why I didn't want to play it, because there is some knight c5, attacking this pawn and attacking this pawn. Now I have to get my knight back to c3 square just to protect e4 and a4. But a3, okay, bishop c5 takes, and now f3. So I remember I was kind of being happy with this, because look, 2 pieces, 2 rooks, equal endgame, it's the same amount of pawns, huge chances for a draw. But once again, I'm playing against 2500 Grandmaster, 15-year-old kid who just, you know, wants to at least, and you know, I think, yes, it was the first ever over the board, for sure, classical for sure. In Blitz, I don't think I played either, because I wasn't as strong as you might see, 2054. I mean, you might argue that wasn't strong for a 15-year-old, but when you have the first game against Gem, you want to be solid, you want to play good chess, and I was just trying to be solid. I was like, okay, I'm playing against Gem, it's a huge honor. King f8, rook d6, king s7, rook d1, and here there are constant tricks. Right now knight d4 is about to happen, so I retreat my rook back to d2 just to not get into his trap. Rook d8, and now I trade rooks, so now we have bishop knight, king d2, knight e6, king f3, bishop d7, f4. F4 is not best, but f4, once again, I kind of make an isolated pawn for myself, but you know, that's an equal endgame. Knight f8, knight d3, rook e8, knight c5, bishop c8, and now I go e5. So e5, yes, take some space. I remember I was worried that this e4 pawn might get in danger. Let's say he goes b6 and bishop f5, king f6, and try to take it, and I was scared a little bit. So e5 with the potential that his pieces can't really move, and potentially this bishop still blocks e6 square, so king cannot attack. Rook is blocking everything on d-file, so something has to happen in order for this pawn to be taken. So b6 was played, knight e4, knight d7, and king goes to e4, protecting the pawn on e5. Now rook f8, the idea is obviously to play f6 or f5 at some point. I go rook d6, and now he plays brilliant g5. And that just shows the level of jam, because rook d6 was played, I attacked the pawn, but I didn't see g5. I never saw g5. And I was like, oh man, am I about to lose this game? So sometimes when you don't expect, the game might fall. So here, according to computer, knight d6 was the best option. And knight c5, knight c8, rook c8, and now rook goes to d6, and white have a solid advantage, because now g5 is no longer possible. There is no such option. The potential idea is to go rook f6, rook f7, but of course there is always knight d6. So I played rook d6 with the same idea of attacking the pawn, and the plan probably was that after bishop e7, which looks passive, I'm not sure what my idea was, but I think I planned something, maybe knight f6, and trade again many pieces. Now this rook is tied to protecting f7 pawn. So g5 was played. G5 was played, and you might ask what's the idea. So I don't think I can take on g5 because knight e5, and I'm about to lose everything because this is under attack, f5 is threatening, this under attack. So the position slowly collapses, and let's go. I go back, f5. And if I go rook d4, I believe there is c5. And once again, rook is under attack, it has to move, knight c4 is coming. Next, so knight g5, I take on g5, and now knight e5. The idea is that I cannot take because f6 and I lose the game. So he managed to create some tricks, but luckily for me, I have this rook d4 protecting the bishop on c4. And now if c5 is played, I can just simply get my rook to e4. And now this knight was on e4 in the previous line I just showed you. So rook e4 is now possible, and white are actually holding and actually better. If f6, there is knight h7, and the position might actually fall apart for black pieces, because there is even knight f6 and king f6. I have rook e5. If rook h4 was about to happen, g4, and I'm winning. So f6 was played. I go knight f3, trying to trade knights off the board. Knight c4, rook c4, c5. Now I go rook e4, rook e2, be safe, take control over the second rank, bishop a6, rook d2, king e6, knight h4, rook f7, knight f5, and we're transposing to the knight versus bishop endgame, where his bishop is a bit more active. I can't say it's more active, but you know, I have pawns on light squares, so it might get dangerous at some point. I was scared, so I go g3 and then knight g7, knight f5. Repeat moves. He goes king d6. He doesn't want to repeat, obviously. Knight e8, attacking the pawn, and now go back to g7. Bishop e2, knight f5, king e6, knight e3, bishop b5. Knight f5 back, and my plan was simply just move back and forth, make sure he doesn't create enough threats to be winning. King d6, g4, king e6, h4, bishop b5, knight f5, bishop d7, knight e3. I was just moving back and forth. I was trying to take some space. Bishop b5, king f4, and I just started moving back and forth. So here, if I go king f4, there is bishop g4, so I don't really want to allow it, even though it's still a draw. You don't really want to go for this when you can have all the pieces on the board. So I go knight f5. I saw that, b5, b4. So the idea of b4 is that after takes, I take, and there is knight d4, fork is being threatened. If king e6, I can simply go knight g3. I'm not sure if this is good enough, king d4, and now h6. So potentially there might be some weaknesses on f6 and h7. So if black decide to go for this pawn, knight d5, king c2, knight f6, or king e4 might be somewhat interesting. This position is actually winning because knight f6 is coming, then you're very close to this pawns, so white are out of danger. So king goes to d5, and now I go knight e3. He goes king d4, now knight f5. My idea was that if king goes to c3, I just take on c5 and I'm winning, and if king goes to c4, I can go knight e3 check again. And this is a mistake, and I'll show you why it is a mistake, because I apparently had knight d6. But at this point, I was only thinking about the draw. I remember I was being low on time, and I just wanted to get out of the playing hall. And after king d5, there's b takes c5, and if king c5, there's knight e4, knight f6, and white are winning. So this could end up disastrous for Grandmaster, because he wanted to play on, and he played king c4. King c3 makes, okay, king c3 loses as well, so he should go back. But after this, we simply agreed to draw. As far as accuracy goes in this game, I played a solid game with 93.8 for myself, and the Grandmaster had 94.3. The performance was very good. I actually, according to Chess.com, had a higher performance rating than the gem. I had 2650, he has 2600. And yes, pretty solid game. I remember I was very happy. This was my first ever game against a gem. I made a draw against a gem, and it's always nice. It's always nice. You know what's interesting is, if I take all games against gems, I've never won a classical games against gems, but if you take all games into the account, I think I have more draws against Grandmasters than I actually have losses. Yes, I haven't won, but I made a lot of draws, and pretty soon I'll release a video when I play not 2490, I played 2580 gem, which on current level is like top 150 or maybe top 250 players in the world. In Vegas, I played against Mikhail Antipov, who is now representing the United States. That will be a fun game to analyze. There were a lot of interesting opening ideas. I hope you enjoyed this game specifically. I hope you will face gems. I mean, now streamers, a lot of gem streamers are kind of making it possible for a lot of people to play against them. But you know, it's nothing compared to serious over-the-board chess games against these guys, because sometimes you're just playing against them and you're like, oh man, they are so good. And I still remember till this day how excited I was, how pumped I was to play this game, and made a draw. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video. Bye bye.